And we are live. Now, this isn't a podcast normally. I don't do live streams after business events or E3 style showcases or any video game showcase. Well, that's going to change. And even though I wouldn't go late this time of night after something that's happened today, I just wanted to talk about it. Because for the past month now, it's been crazy online. People have lost their marbles, so to speak. And, I'll just let people come into the show because I normally give like an hour and a half, 2 hours in advance before a podcast starts. But I decided just to go live about 5 minutes ago. It's been an interesting month for Xbox fans. And like as someone that covers Xbox and mainly Xbox, it's been a weird month because I've kind of had to look towards the future and see what I'd pivot towards making. Well, now I don't really have to worry about that, and I've been trying to tell people the past month to calm down, and I'll talk about in a bit why people should calm down. Even though, look, if you're on Twitter, and may God bless your heart if you do spend your time on Twitter because it's a hellhole on there, but if you spend time on Twitter, you'll know that for the past month, like, it's been crazy online when it comes to Xbox rumors, and I always get the feeling that people have constantly tried to one-up each other. Someone says, I've heard this game's going to other platforms. Then another person joins in and says, oh, I can corroborate this, and I've heard this game is also going to these other platforms. And there's been no consistency in the video game space when it comes to the past month and a half. People have just ran with rumors constantly. People have walked back the whole Starfield thing like last week. Even though Starfield, that rumour, made people go insane on Twitter. But I think that fans, after today, should calm down. It's been a very good day, and I'll get into why in a bit, why I think Xbox fans, you can calm down. And bear in mind, I don't think you should trust Xbox. I don't think you should trust PlayStation or Nintendo or any company on earth, because these are corporations out to get your money. They will talk nice to you. However, Xbox today, the way they've worded things, I think people can calm down. The other day on All Things Xbox podcast, I tried to tell people why they should be worried and why it's okay to be worried. It's okay as a gamer to be worried because if you're on Xbox, you have a library of maybe hundreds of games, thousands of games. You've spent thousands of pounds and even maybe tens of thousands of pounds. It's okay to be concerned. I think any Xbox fan over the past month has had the right to be concerned. But I'll say this today, you don't have to be. And when it comes to like PlayStation and Nintendo, like Nintendo's always going to do their old thing. They've been doing their own thing for as long as I can remember. You have to remember Nintendo last generation, like people thought Nintendo was going to go third party. The Wii U did not do well at all. By any means. It sold like 13 million units. Their exclusives weren't selling, even though Nintendo exclusives normally sell better than Microsoft and Sony's combined. And look what happened. They turned it all around. And even though this past few weeks, Microsoft, they've had to deal with this endless amount of clickbait. That's all I've seen on YouTube. Clickbait, Xbox going third party. Some of the crappiest thumbnails I've ever seen imaginable, But I think people should calm. It's okay. And the funny thing is, you can clearly see that people on Twitter, they thought every rumor was, true. And they've just ran with it. And then they've made it seem like, the end is nigh. Well, the end isn't nigh. People can calm down. And please, if you're enjoying the live stream, share it out. Again, normally I get 90 minutes in advance to tell people that there's going to be a live stream. This time it was 5 minutes. It wasn't even 5 minutes, let's be honest. But I've tried to keep my entire YouTube channel and even my Twitter like calm. I've been composed during this whole thing because no matter what I say, if I'm composed, people will listen. If you have someone on Twitter losing their marbles, doesn't matter what they say is true or not true, people won't take them seriously. And the truth is, when it comes to video games, we're meant to enjoy them. There's too many people out there that spend their time trying to dig up negative information and spread FUD in the gaming space, and especially if you're an Xbox fan, you have to deal with that FUD 10 times over. You know, if you're on Nintendo and your preference is Nintendo, you have nothing to worry about. You can sit back, watch all this news, and everything's going to be fine, because Microsoft and PlayStation are heading in different directions as opposed to Nintendo. PlayStation, they've clearly seen they can make money putting games day and date in PC. Things are changing in the industry. Phil said today that things are changing, and I don't think, you know, the doom and gloom scenario people thought was going to happen, that isn't going to be a thing. And I think, like, this past few weeks, I've seen people say, "Oh, I'm selling my Xbox" on Twitter, and, you know, they'll post a picture of their Xbox in a trash can, and it's a clean trash can, and there's nothing else underneath. You know, it's just perfectly clean. And no, the truth is, they put it in there for a picture, for a few likes. That's just what people do. It's just what people do. And the truth is, you know, especially after today, like, people will look at what happened, regret their purchase, because look, PlayStation, they came out yesterday and said they don't have any major new releases in existing franchises in between now and I think they said March 2025 or April 2025. And look, PlayStation's going to be fine. This is not me crapping on PlayStation, like, but PlayStation, they're not going to have the same type of year as Xbox. Xbox has a great year ahead. They have a fantastic lineup of games. We're going to have more games announced at their summer showcase. And you have to think about it like this. Indiana Jones was basically announced, 2 years ago? And we just got gameplay like a week and a half ago. People were excited. People were ecstatic. And, you know, people do this up and down thing on Twitter when it comes to Xbox. You know, Xbox is dead, Xbox is back, Xbox is dead. And it's true, because it is like that in the Xbox space. But if you're on Nintendo, you don't have to worry. It's always fine. You know, the Switch is number one, right? The Switch is always going to be number one. The Switch 2, or whatever they call it, that's going to be number one as well. And it's because the Switch is appealing to a massive market that Microsoft and Sony just can't touch. They just can't. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. You know, in the hardcore console space, or I should say powerful console space, it's always going to be Microsoft and Sony. And that's good. That's good that them two, they're going to push each other. You know, Microsoft, they've pushed with services and, you know, value. And now Sony, they put more money into their PlayStation Plus service, or whatever it's called now. I always forget the name of it. And that's just going to be how it is. They're going to push each other. And, you know, even though Microsoft's third, PlayStation's second. You know, it's not the worst thing that ever happened. But everything that was said today, as someone that is a Xbox content creator, I have literally, not even kidding, no worries. They have the most amount of content coming out. They have hardware clearly planned for this year and beyond. And, you know, services and features, like they mentioned backwards compatibility today. People don't have to worry. And I'll be honest, like, I think personally, if I was covering PlayStation and only PlayStation, I would be bored out of my mind. You have nothing to talk about outside of third-party exclusives. You're going to talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro every week until it's officially announced. Because remember, the PlayStation 5 Pro, people have been talking about that thing since these consoles first came out. People didn't like that Microsoft had a one-up in the power, you know, space. And all of a sudden, when that Pro comes out, power will matter again. You'll have Digital Foundry covering every single game in existence if there's a resolution advantage. Because I'm not saying the Xbox tax is real, but I mean, if you have your eyes open, you notice things. Anyway, before I continue, just want to know, how's the audio chat? Because again, I have music going on in the background. I've never put music on a live stream before. It's very low, I know, but still, just trying out some new things. And you know, this year I'm going to start doing on-camera content. I think it's about time that someone that doesn't lose their mind every 5 seconds in the Xbox space is on camera. I think it would be fun. But I think, you know, Xbox fans, they've had the right to be cautious. I think as a consumer, you should be cautious of these corporations, because again, they are out to get your money. It doesn't matter if it's blue, green, or red, they all want your money at the end of the day. And so I was going to let more people come in, but I want to get into the whole thing. So this business update, for the longest time, I've been trying to tell people, and this is just my theory. My theory was, if all of it was true, Microsoft would have came out the day of and basically got ahead of it. Because in the internet space, people get on and move on to other things super fast. Why do you think every time there's bad Sony news, they come out and give people sales figures? They do that every time. It's because people move on to the next thing. That's what consumers do. We're in the internet age when people are on the phones like 6 hours a day or more, and the next thing is always the most attractive thing. That's why Sony does that, and it's actually a smart tactic. And then you have the other end of the argument where if all of it was true, they would come out and... sorry, let me try and make sense of this. If none of it was true, they would have came out and denied it, because there would have been no other reason not to. If all of it was true, they would have just announced it there and then. So I always thought it would be the lesser of two evils. Some of it is true. And honestly, what happened today is the best outcome ever. Best outcome. They confirmed that 4 titles are going over. They didn't say which ones. My prediction is Sea of Thieves, Grounded, Pentiment, and Hi-Fi Rush. And hey, you know, I always thought Hi-Fi Rush should remain as an Xbox exclusive, but if Nintendo gamers and PlayStation gamers want to fund a sequel for me, so be it. Let them fund a sequel. I'm cool with that. Grounded, personally, I don't play Grounded. I'm not really into survival games that much. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I don't really talk about survival games. I posted about Valheim twice, but I'm waiting for an update. I posted about Palworld, but I've found it hard to game with my burnt hand when that came out. So, I've been not really playing survival games. And I think Grounded, that could get some popularity. Sea of Thieves, I mean, they all get motion 6, so who knows? Maybe they'll have to get some, Dramamine or something, but those 4 titles, if those potentially the only 4 ever, hey, is it really a loss? I've said on the podcast many times that I think when it comes to Sea of Thieves, Microsoft pretty much, and they basically said it today, I think Microsoft has reached their full sales potential, mass sales potential, when it comes to Sea of Thieves on Xbox. So putting it on Switch, I'll just say Switch 2, and PlayStation 5 wouldn't actually hurt them. If you listen to this live stream right now, and you don't play Sea of Thieves, like me, you don't play Sea of Thieves, does it really bother you? Because it doesn't really bother me. The only thing that entices me to go back to Sea of Thieves is that now there's the single player stuff. You can play the whole thing solo without worrying about other players. And, you put that on the Switch 2 and the PlayStation 5 to get more money from that. It gives Rare maybe a bigger opportunity to do more exciting things when it comes to new IP. Hey, I'm all for it. And I think that if you've been playing games most of your life, maybe it is a bit scary that these companies are now experimenting. PlayStation fans are absolutely crapping themselves because games going to PC devalue the console to them. Microsoft's going to put more games on other platforms because Minecraft's already there, Call of Duty's there, Diablo and all that stuff's there, Quake 1 and 2 remasters. But it's not really going to be the worst thing in the world. And I think that's where, if you've been gaming for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, whatever, most of your life, it's a change. But the industry's been changing for a long time. In the early 2000s, Apple completely shook the music industry when it came to iTunes. Books became digital, with the whole Kindle stuff. Movies and TV are subscription based now, to the point where everyone has a subscription service. And that's fine, Hell, even cigarettes are electronic now. But if you're not used to change, it's scary, and I understand that. And I will say this, if Microsoft do put out physical versions of Hi-Fi Rush on Switch and on PlayStation, they better do that for Xbox as well, because people have been wanting those physical. But until anything happens, we can't really complain. We can show our concerns, but I think that it's okay. And I'm going to mention something right now before I talk about everything else they mentioned, and nobody else has mentioned this. Microsoft, they clearly said that smaller titles and live service games would be going over. They said only 4 for now. It was not an indication of other titles going over. However, if you look at all of Microsoft's games in development right now, none of them are actually live service titles. Microsoft are clearly going to push their, the Xbox Series XS and their next-gen consoles with single-player content. I've been saying for a while that the industry, they're going to move away from live service stuff. I bet if you listen to this right now, you do not care about live service games and you don't play them. Most games in Game Pass right now are actually single player. Myself, I don't play live service games. I play Fall Guys and I haven't put a penny into it. I play Call of Duty with one of my friends, and if that friend is listening right now, my friend Darren had appendicitis, he's in hospital, so if you're listening, I'll hopefully see you over the weekend. Get well soon. I don't really play live service games. I don't really play Halo multiplayer anymore. Like, I stepped back from multiplayer back after Modern Warfare 3 came out. I moved to Battlefield 3, bit of Halo 4, then Titanfall, then Halo 5, and I was done with multiplayer. I don't play Destiny, I don't play The Division, so live service games to me aren't really interesting. The good thing for me is that Microsoft are clearly pivoting towards single-player content. Most of their studios outside of Bethesda are making single-player games and RPGs. You have In Exile, they're making a AAA steampunk RPG. You have, obviously, Obsidian. I'm going to mention the Bethesda stuff, but Obsidian, they're making single-player content for Starfield and also Elder Scrolls. Blade, that's going to be single-player. You have the remakes and remasters of Fallout and Oblivion, obviously single-player. Like, I don't think people should be concerned. And let's get into all the other stuff they mentioned. So Phil said that those 4 games are going over. Again, not the big deal that people are making it out to be. And also that people shouldn't get their hopes up if you're on PlayStation and Nintendo that more games will come. And I think that was the right message to push, because as a consumer, if you're on PlayStation, Nintendo, like, all I've seen for the past few weeks is people saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we get Halo on Switch? I've actually seen journalists say Halo should go to Switch, and it's like, you don't want the industry to thrive because you want Xbox out of the picture. Well, today, they pushed that aside. That's not going to be a thing. So there's that. And that was the right message. And also, they talked about hardware. And I didn't actually expect them to talk about hardware today, because hardware, it's years out, outside of the digital-only revision that's going to come out this year, or should I say, it leaked last year and it's meant to come out this holiday, as well as a new controller. Like, they said they want to have the biggest technological leap when it comes to hardware they've ever had before, and they said ever in the console space. Now, that's actually a big deal, because this was the generation we moved to 120 frames per second for titles. This was the generation we moved to ray tracing. And ray tracing on console isn't exactly what people want it to be. Ray tracing, in my opinion, I'll put this out there, this might be a bit of a hot take, I think ray tracing is kind of overrated. I will actually take 60 frames over ray tracing. Like, ray tracing does look good. In Cyberpunk, it looks good. In Persona 3 Reload, it looks good. But 9 times out of 10, I'm not really bothered about ray tracing. I can take it or leave it. I would much rather have 60 frames across the board as opposed to ray tracing. But ray tracing technology is actually getting better. And, I think the next machine, the next Xbox that comes out in 2026, that machine is going to be very powerful, because, AI technology, that's came a long way. I've even talked about, since the Xbox Series X was announced, that AI-based rendering for older titles. So if you play let's say the original, and I mean the original Final Fantasy VII on PC, you can use AI to upscale those pre-rendered backgrounds, and they look great now. So I think we could see that on console, and I think that's where that kind of technology is going towards. And considering Microsoft, they did say today that, they have backwards compatibility. They take care of their legacy titles, and they want that to continue. And they talked about compatibility. Like, if you play an Xbox Series X or S, your games from the original Xbox, the Xbox 360, Xbox One, those work seamlessly. You don't have to worry about your saves. You don't have to worry about trophies or achievements syncing. You don't have to worry about whether you're getting the correct game. Like, it's all done seamlessly for you, which I love, by the way. I don't like hassle when it comes to technology. I want things to work the way they're meant to be, and that's great. But, like, from people I know on the PlayStation side, like, you have to sync trophies. You don't know if you're downloading the correct game. It sounds like too much of a hassle for me. But on Xbox, that's not an issue, and it's good that they're going to continue that. I will say this, though. I thought they were going to announce the Activision batch of backwards compatible games today, but they didn't. I think that would have been some good news, but I think that will come. I do think we will actually see the Activision backwards compatible games announced maybe before the summer showcase. But it's good that they talked about backwards compatibility, because I talk about that all the time. I love the fact that I can go to my shelf and get out my Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic disc from 20 years ago, and it works. That's great. And I can do that with my 360 games. Like, I put it like this, and people will make fun of this, but I don't care. One of the first things I did when I got my Xbox Series X launch day, I put 360 games in there. I wanted to see what they look like, what they run like. You know, the saves being pulled down from the cloud was seamless, and that's just super cool. You know, we get told all the time that you should buy your games. Well, shouldn't I be able to replay them? Shouldn't I want to replay the games I purchase? And that's why I buy games, so I can replay them. But anyway, the backwards compatibility stuff was mentioned, and then they confirmed Activision Blizzard titles coming to Game Pass, starting with Diablo 4. I think they said March 28th, and that's a big game. That's a huge Game Pass drop. But remember, if you listen to this right now and you're on Twitter, for the past 2 weeks, we've heard that Activision Blizzard titles are not coming to Game Pass. Well, they completely denied that. Those titles are clearly coming. And look, I'm not going to mention any certain people in particular when it comes to rumors, but the amount of people these past 2 weeks that have ran with every rumor thinking they're all true and just talking down to people, it's a bit disrespectful. Like, Microsoft said multiple times that Game Pass is sustainable, and they've always planned for Activision titles to come to Game Pass. If you remember, the Xbox Developer Direct, when they announced that, it said at the bottom of the page, don't expect to hear anything about Activision Blizzard titles in Game Pass in this event. They've always planned it. So the whole those games aren't coming thing always seemed a bit off to me. And I never liked that. Like, people are just running with everything. So I'm just checking my Twitter because, again, I shouldn't have... I literally chose last minute to stream. So sorry if I'm a bit slow today. But yeah, anyway. They talked about the Activision games coming, and it's a big deal for Diablo to come over, because that's a live service title. It also has, the single player and multiplayer stuff, which is great. But I think consumers should be satisfied. Your Game Pass is going to continue to grow, which is great. And they said today that they've got 34 million subscribers. And remember, the other rumor going around was that that apparently nobody knew was subscribing. And I love going on Twitter, I love talking to people, but the people run with every rumor as it's fact, and that really bothers me. It's why I've got such a calm head when it comes to this stuff, because people make up stuff just out of nowhere. I blame a lot of the larger influencers and the journalists for, I think they just do it for attention at this point. I can corroborate this. I heard about this. And it's like, where? Like, I'll put it like this. When I heard that Dragon Quest XI was coming to Xbox 2 days before it came out to the console, or the announcement, I just start randomly tweeting GIFs about, Dragon Quest. Because I knew about it, and I wanted to hint at it. I didn't want to let people know, but the fact that these people they'll come out and make things up just for attention, it's like, look, people get things wrong, and that's cool. It happens. People make mistakes, but gamers just... I think gamers in the whole, like, gaming journalism space, they just want the attention and they'll make stuff up. Like, the whole Starfield going to other consoles thing, and people saying I can corroborate this, and then denying it straight away. Like, as soon as it, like, leaked that it wasn't. And it's just like, are people not tired of this? And I talked about this the other day. I'm tired of all game news being leaks. That's all game news is now. It's not what cool feature is coming to this upcoming game, and that really annoys the hell out of me. It really does. And it also annoys me that we spend all this time talking about leaks, talking about all these things coming to Xbox and PlayStation or whatever, and then when those games come out, nobody talks about them. It's just leaks, rumors, talking about those leaks and rumors. Which is why I try to make a habit of, talking about those games that's released, because what's the point? Why are we talking about leaks other than for clicks? If we're not going to talk about those games when they come out. Granted, leaks and rumors, they get more clicks, but I mean, it's not that interesting. And granted, if I put leaks and rumors in every thumbnail or title, I would get a hell of a lot more views. But I mean, I like to talk about the games themselves. Yeah. Anyway, they were talking about that. They mentioned the hardware jump. I think, we talk about the laws of diminishing returns all the time on the channel, and how games cost more to make. And don't get me wrong, I'm looking forward towards the next gen Xbox. I'm looking forward to what that can do. Obviously, the new controller, it's going to have haptic feedback, which, hey, I don't actually care about haptic feedback. In a controller like that, like, if people want to, have extra rumble, that's cool. But if they want to add gyro to controllers, I think that's cool, because that can actually help people with disabilities. And I've played some games with gyro before, but that controller stuff doesn't really bother me that much. It's mainly features I'm looking forward towards. I want to know what backwards compatibility enhancements happen, because with the One X, we got 4K enhancements. With the series consoles, we got 60 FPS boost and 120 FPS boost. Like, you can play Mad Max at 120 frames on Xbox Series X. That's crazy. And that game was not built for that on console. So it's a really cool technology. And anyway, one of the other reasons why I told people not to freak out is because with all these leaks and rumors over the past 3-4 years now, going on 4 years, Microsoft has had huge announcements to make that have not leaked. Nobody's hinted at. Remember, ABK, nobody hinted at it. Nobody leaked it. Bethesda, nobody leaked it. Nobody knew about it. They were able to keep those things quiet, which is when all these rumors start coming out, I thought, well, how come they can keep these rumors, like, they can't keep these rumors from going public, but, something as big as Activision Blizzard. That really annoyed me. But yeah. And I think, it's going to be a big deal, the next generation hardware, because Microsoft, they clearly don't want to do a mid-gen refresh. I've seen some people disappointed about that, and I can understand, because when the PlayStation 4 Pro came out, people were saying Microsoft can't go a year without, releasing a new console. And they waited a year. Microsoft came out with the One X, and it was more powerful, and it was even smaller. So, and back then, people were adopting, 4K technology more than ever before. 4K streaming was taken up with Netflix, and YouTube streaming was doing 4K. So people then more than ever had reasons to buy 4K devices for 4K content. And then Microsoft put a 4K Blu-ray player in their console. They waited for the right time, and it works. Now this time, what's the reason to adopt a new console? Like, I've talked to Logan about this on the channel before. How does Sony, or even Microsoft, if they wanted to do a mid-gen refresh, how do they sell a mid-gen refresh console? Did they say that you're going to get more ray tracing? Did they say that you're going to get more 60 frames? So that's all over the place for me. I think there's no reason this time for a mid-gen refresh, unless maybe Sony are really desperate to add most powerful console on their box. But I don't necessarily see that as them selling more consoles. They already sell a lot. And I honestly think the whole... Oh, sorry, we have the first Super Chat of the day by Hacky Sack. And people, if you want to support the channel with Super Chats, that's always appreciated. Anyway, Hacky Sack for $5. Thank you very much. He says, my theory on next gen is that there will be a $700 to $800 enthusiast SKU. So they're no longer chained and worry about pricing for the casual gamer. I mean, that's a good shout. Like, these consoles we have now, basically, let's call them $500 boxes. And then if you live outside of the US, the Xbox Series X went up in price after the PlayStation 5 went up in price. It was unheard of for consoles to go up in price. Let's face it, the worldwide economy at the minute is crashing and burning. Game developers are shutting down left and right. Studios are shutting down, and Microsoft and Sony raised the price of their consoles. If I remember correctly, the Quest, or whatever you call it, the Facebook Oculus device, that went up in price as well. I think that went up $100. So, like, for people to think that, we're going to get these mid-gen refresh consoles for the same price, they are out of their minds. The PlayStation 5 Pro, that's going to be $600. And, like, next-gen consoles, like, I think the next-gen console will be $600. The handheld thing that's been rumoured, I mean, that could be any price. But I do think Hacky Sack is right. Microsoft, it maybe isn't that concerned about the casual consumer as much, considering they're going to have a cheaper SKU. Or at least we think they're going to have a cheaper SKU. So there is that. Anyway, thank you very much for the $5, Hacky Sack. It's a weird time because the console space, back in the 90s, in the 80s, and even early 2000s, we would get a brand new console generation every 4 to 5 years. And most games would just start being developed for the next-gen consoles. Cross-gen development wasn't much of a thing. Some titles did it, but even back then, cross-gen development was sometimes completely different games. So if you play Splinter Cell Double Agent on the original Xbox, and then you play Splinter Cell Double Agent on the 360, those are completely different games with different stories and missions. But they have the same name, and they were under the same marketing material. And then as time gone on, we got more generations supporting more games. So last gen, we got Dragon Age Inquisition, which had all this fancy new tech with the Frostbite engine. But we also got Dragon Age Inquisition on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, which, that, from what I saw in that game, it was not pretty. But this generation's weird because Xbox One and PlayStation 4, like, there's like 100 million gamers on those consoles still. They still haven't moved over yet, and can you blame them? Xbox and PlayStation, they've had next to no... Well, they've had like a handful of like exclusives. If you're on last generation, I honestly don't think you've had much of a big reason to actually purchase a next gen console, especially the economy we're in at the minute. I can't blame anyone. It's a crap economy and the industry is in a weird place. But anyway, let's get back on track. I think that gamers can calm down with everything that's happened, and I've seen the thought on Twitter that people should, lock out the people from the community that have lost it the past few weeks. Like, I'm not like that. Like, if I understand people can be annoyed, like Xbox gamers on Twitter just losing their marbles all the time. You have these people that have had motion sickness their entire lives when it comes to first-person games. Now they don't magically. That's wonderful. And it's been wild, but Microsoft, they came out and denied the, fully multi-platform thing. And it's okay to be cautious with Microsoft. Like I said at the beginning of the live stream, people should always be cautious with these companies because that's all they want at the end of the day. They want your money. It just depends on their messaging and what they offer you. And like, look, let's talk about PlayStation for a second. PlayStation doesn't really offer me much when it comes to my tastes, and them being a a gaming device. Like, they come out with these third-person action-adventure games once a year, and they don't really appeal to me. I like Microsoft because they put out variety. I don't want just one genre. You know, Microsoft, they're making first-person RPGs, third-person RPGs, action-adventure games, racing games, sim games, RTS games. You know, they're making horror games, and the list goes on. And when it comes to Sony, it's like they have a lot of studios, but a lot of them are now pivoting towards making live service games, which aren't for me. And the whole, like, don't get me wrong, I like playing third-person action-adventure games, but not all the time. Like, you'll notice during the podcasts when I have gameplay, I have games from tons of different genres. I have platformers, action-adventure games, racing games, flight games. Like, it's all over the place because that's what I'm like as a gamer. And I think that, you know, people are running with now on Twitter that, oh, Phil Spencer lied in the past, so he'll lie again. It's like, has he really lied? You know, the Xbox One X, they wanted to have Fidelity VR. And then after the console came out, Phil Spencer said they're not really interested in doing that anymore. However, VR is in a weird spot. Nobody's making AAA games for those machines. And most of the content on those devices, videos, like 3D virtual videos, like video games aren't really the number one reason to purchase one of those devices. Like, look at Apple. They've put out a $3,000 headset. There's next to no content. You can't play VR games on them. Like, you can't play your Resident Evil 8 VR or any of that stuff. Like, it's a locked out headset with no game controllers, and it's just video stuff. You know, so Microsoft, them not getting into VR right now makes sense. Look at PlayStation VR. It's a cool headset with a lot of tech in it, but even PlayStation, they aren't making games for that headset. Or I should say big games. They're not coming out with a brand new, you know, AAA Uncharted game. It's like, no, they're coming out with these games where you can balance blocks on other blocks and maybe knock over those blocks with the controller. How cool is that? Fun times. I think when it gets to a point where maybe a AAA game can be made and then have like just a VR option, maybe then it'll be fine. But I don't think Microsoft getting into VR at any time soon makes sense. So that was that. And then when it came to the Series X, did Microsoft really lie? Like, people use Starfield as this sort of argument, but if you go back and watch the Starfield showcase, when they first showed off gameplay, everything you see in that 15-minute segment, we can do in Starfield. Like, the load screens were even there, everything was there, and personally I think Starfield is a fantastic game, but like, Microsoft didn't lie. In fact, we have more next-gen only games on Xbox than PlayStation, but the media won't talk about that. I just think, you know, Microsoft, they need to market better. I think that if Microsoft marketed their console better, actually told people what the bloody console could do, they would be in a better spot. Most people don't know about backwards compatibility on Xbox. I put it like this. I can't say the names of these people, but there are high-profile content creators on YouTube in the gaming space, and there are high-profile gaming journalists that I've had to tell that the Xbox has 360 games like Gears that you can buy, and those games have enhancements like 60 frames, 4K, 16 times anisotropic filter, and HDR. They've had no idea, because the truth is, journalists, people in the media, they don't care or know about Xbox. I've heard Jez from Windows Central mention this, and it's true. Like, these people grew up with PlayStation and didn't change their preference. They didn't care about... They never cared about getting to know the Xbox ecosystem, right? But if you're on Xbox, you've played Xbox maybe most of your life, you know that, hey, your games work seamlessly, your saves work seamlessly, your achievements work. Like, we have this like ecosystem with 4 generations worth of games with all these different features. Like, you also have things like quick resume and all that stuff. But the media doesn't talk about it. Like, if you open up IGN at any point of the day, it's just BS clickbait. BS clickbait and them not doing the jobs. By the way, IGN's been community noted about 4 times this year. It's beautiful. But it's like they're not doing the job. And I do think Microsoft, they need to advertise what their console could do. And I can't even remember the last time I saw Xbox Series XOS getting marketing on television or on YouTube. But that's a story for another day. But all in all, I think the live stream, or say the podcast they put out today, was very concise. They got the message off that they needed. It wasn't cool that we had to wait a week. Obviously, from a company standpoint, you want to try and control the messaging, and this was basically their way of doing it. So they did let people go nuts for a week. The people that went nuts for a week shouldn't have. Like, the behavior I've seen over the past week's been kind of disgusting. You know, I've been called some awful things. People that I've had follow me for years on Twitter, and who I followed back, unfollowed me, said some awful things about me, and yeah, blocked me. And it's like, just because I'm not losing my mind, people I would have considered friends on Twitter did that. And it's like, it's all over video games, all over because I wouldn't lose my mind. It's like, nobody's perfect, but come on, like, the arguments I'm seeing on Twitter is just ridiculous. People are expecting Microsoft to come out at any second and just say, hey, ladies and gents, go sell your consoles right now, all your games, hop over to PlayStation because that's what we want. That's what people act like. And I do think Microsoft, they do have, you know, ways to go when it comes to improving their ecosystem. You know, for instance, Final Fantasy games. And that will always be the big point for me. They need to lock down future Final Fantasy games. They need to go to Square Enix and get some contract written up for the next, I don't know, 10 Final Fantasy games that they must come to Xbox. Doesn't matter if they're small ones or big ones. They need to confirm that will happen at some point. Because that is always the big point when people talk about, yeah, this multi-platform thing will work, but when's Xbox getting some, you know, Japanese games? And that's a good point. That's something they need to work on. But when it comes to the stuff they mentioned today, as a consumer, I think what they did today was good. As a content creator covering Xbox, I have no worries. Yeah, hell, this past 2 weeks, I've made videos and not put them out simply because every time I do and there's negative news in the Twitter space, the video either tanks or people complain in the comments that I'm not covering the topic. Well, clearly I can get back to, you know, the normal stuff, but I think everyone talking about these rumors as the facts, as I see 13 Carey mentioned in chat, like, everyone talks about these rumors as the facts. The second, like, anyone can make up any rumor and say this: I heard this, I heard that, I heard that Elder Scrolls. You heard it here first, and I am corroborating this with myself. Elder Scrolls 6 is only going to be on PlayStation 6. It's not going to be on Xbox. It's not going to be on PC. It's not going to be on Game Pass. In fact, the Elder Scrolls trailer, and I can corroborate this, the Elder Scrolls 6 trailer will actually say "screw Xbox" on the start screen. That's going to happen. That's good. I can corroborate this. 100% confirmed. Eyes emoji. It's happening. And like, that's all people have to do. You know, then someone will make a Reddit post saying, I heard this. Then someone will go to Reset Era, which is the cesspool or cesspit of the gaming space. Never go there, especially if you're a developer. Just don't. And like, that rumor spreads. Then it flows onto Twitter. And it's this endless cycle of BS, and it's so tiring. People believe everything they hear, and it's okay to be concerned, but it's stupid. Like, it's almost as if the gaming industry is a toilet, right? And the rumors and leaks that happen daily is someone having the runs. I hate to be a bit grotesque, but that's the only way I can describe it. Like, people just are weird about it. And, like, look, after you've done listening to this, and I hope you enjoyed the live stream, I plan on doing a lot more, especially when I have my camera set up. Type in Xbox, just the word Xbox, into the YouTube search bar, and just scroll. It's this endless amount of Xbox going third party, and some of these are by huge content creators with hundreds, if not millions, of subscribers, not talking about the facts. talking about rumors as facts. And that is the biggest load of crap, in my opinion. Now, let's get back onto the whole Final Fantasy thing, which I keep saying they need to improve on, the Japanese thing, which they will. None of these people that say, wouldn't it be cool if you could play Halo on your Switch? Wouldn't it be cool if you could play, I don't know, Killer Instinct on your PlayStation? None of these arsehots, none of these hacks ever say at all that, wouldn't it be cool if you could play Final Fantasy VII Remake on your Xbox? Wouldn't it be cool if you could play that on xCloud via, streaming on mobile? They never mention that. It's because it's gatekeeps. Yeah, if you're an Xbox fan just caring about your library, you get called a fanboy. Places like Kotaku have called individuals out just by being concerned. And that is the reality we're living in the gaming space, and I hate that. I hate that. I won't talk to people like that, because people for the past few weeks have been right to be concerned. If you're like me and you have tens of thousands of pounds invested in the ecosystem, you don't want them to go away. Good thing is that they're not, I have all my games and my collector's editions and, my DLC, games, map packs, all of it. It's on Xbox. In fact, the main reason I don't have a PlayStation right now is because the way I work about my gaming like this is that I have X amount of game time. Do I want to divide that between multiple platforms? The answer right now is no. However, I do plan on getting a Switch 2 or Super Switch and maybe a PlayStation 5 Slim at some point. But right now, everything I want to play, for the most part, is on Xbox. I just want the Final Fantasy games, including the Pixel remasters, and then I'm good. And then there's also things like Kingdom Hearts. And by the way, whenever I talk about Japanese games coming to Xbox, people sometimes roll their eyes and say, I don't care about those titles. And even if you don't care about Final Fantasy or Japanese titles, you should still want them on the platform, because that's more games. I think that, people just need to take a step back, let people have the fun. But I have to say, just the clickbait I've seen in the past 2 weeks made my eyes roll. The spaces, and by the way, I don't do spaces on Twitter. I may click on them, listen to 5 seconds, and I just exit. Because, one, the audio experience is awful. Why do people like talking into the phones where there's 50 other people talking? It's not a nice listening experience. It's just people shouting back and forth, And people just... By the way, some of the spaces last week on Twitter were 5, 6, 7 hours long. You're doing a space about gaming at 6 a.m. Why? Why are you doing this to yourself? I just don't get it. But hey, if that's how people want to spend the time, that's all cool. I think that if you're an Xbox gamer, you have no reason to worry now. You shouldn't have worried to begin with, but I think cause for concern was there. But now it's okay. I think people should be respectful, and if you want things to come to Xbox, voice it. If you want more physical versions to come to Xbox, voice it. If you want a, let's say, external disk drive to work on the digital series console that's coming out this year, voice it. I do think that'll happen. But don't go nasty with this. People from Xbox have gotten death threats this past week. People have been looking at their likes and judging them based on their likes. In a dire situation, and I'll use Mass Effect once again. When Mass Effect as a franchise tanked with Andromeda, and the creative up top at EA said, the Mass Effect franchise is going into hiatus. Now, I know what that means. We went 5 years without a Mass Effect title, and we were told it's going into hiatus. That meant they putting the franchise to bed. They cancelled multiple books. They cancelled a line of merchandise. They cancelled a line of comics. Right? And that was, the hiatus. It's because the franchise tanked. EA had no intention of doing anything with Mass Effect ever again. They had the rights to use in Star Wars. And at that time, they had about 6 Star Wars games in development. So Mass Effect was never a cause for concern for them. And I would like posts on Twitter there where people were making fun of the demise and how EA has threatened Mass Effect. That meme where there's someone looking at the bottom of the boot because they've stepped in something? That was going around. It was just a picture of the Mass Effect logo because that's what EA looked at Mass Effect like. And I liked those posts, and people just looked at like Stein's post from Twitter and just thought, oh, this means they're going third party. No, it doesn't. People have lost the marbles and all that, and I think people should just calm down. I will say this though, if any of these things happen again, when it comes to like leaks and rumors, they should try the best to get ahead of it, because as we've seen in the past month, people will run with anything. Gears of War, like in my feed last week, there was a lot of people posting Gears of War and Halo coming to PlayStation. Like if that were to happen, that would be the demise of Xbox. That's not a thing now. And I'm already seeing people saying like, oh, they're testing the waters. I think them putting the older games on makes sense. Such as like Sea of Thieves and, I just assume Grounded. The smaller games make sense because if you scroll on Twitter, do you really see anyone talking about Pentiment? It was a smaller 15-hour game that came out over a year and a half ago. If people wanted to play Hi-Fi Rush by now, I'm guessing they already did on Xbox, shall I say. And let's be honest, like Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, those aren't really system sellers. They're smaller titles. Granted, I think that Hi-Fi Rush could be a system seller in Japan. I do think they could do things with those characters in Japan in the future. Tango Gameworks, apparently they're working on a JRPG. Now, if you have Hi-Fi Rush style animation, you have something that could go alongside Persona. That's the dream anyway. But yeah, I think it's okay. People should calm down. It's okay. Anyway, before I end the stream, does anyone want anything answering? Just put in chat, because I don't normally do these live streams. I normally have like 2 hours, 3 hours to set up, but I rushed today, made that thumbnail. It was a rush, but I think it's a good time to be an Xbox fan because people can calm down. People don't have to worry. It's been a wild week, 2 weeks, even month. I think it's been a really bad year for Xbox fans if you think about it so far. Not because of the games coming out, but it's been like 2024 started. 2024 started, and it's been nothing but negativity. It was Xbox is dead. It's the end of Xbox. People were concerned, and then Xbox is back with the developer direct. People saw Indiana Jones, and Xbox is back. And then more rumors happen. It's like Xbox is dead. It's like from the beginning of January, Xbox fans haven't had the chance to just sit back and go, oh yeah, we do have a roadmap this year. And that looks bright. And there's a bunch of cool games coming. Nope, it's been, worry about this. Xbox is dead. Your games are going into the digital dumpster fire because, they're going third party. Microsoft will stop getting third party support. All of that has been happening for about a month and a half. It's now, February 16th. And people need to calm down. C13K, we mentioned in chat, one said in the thumbnail that after the business update, that Xbox will go digital and all my... right, I want to mention this, and I'm glad you mentioned this. So a lot of those thumbnails you're seeing, I think I know which ones you're talking about. I sometimes click on PlayStation content creators to see what their frame of mind is. I want to, sort of delve deep into the mind of a PlayStation fan and see how they, view things. And a lot of them, and I think you might know which ones I'm talking about, they will constantly say things like Xbox is all digital. And no matter what they told, they'll mention like, oh, those games are going to be third party. They don't care about power. But the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be a beast, because power matters now, and just some absolute garbage fire thumbnails. Like, what are they doing? Are they using clip art from Word to make those thumbnails? Bear in mind, I used to make terrible thumbnails. Oh my god, I didn't know how to make them. If you go back to content before, I want to say August 2019, I had no idea how to make thumbnails, so I taught myself. And sometimes I just cringe seeing these things. It's like, at least do your layering right. Like, the font you're using's crap. Use some shadows or even some smoke. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. But the clickbait's been all over the place. I hated it. You know, if I've seen like I'm talking all over the place today, it's because normally, again, I have a few hours to prep for a show, or I make edited videos, and edited videos return this week. But yeah, anyway, want to say everyone in chat has been amazing. Sorry for not letting people know, but I literally gave myself about 5 minutes to prepare. However, while people are here, I want to do a little channel update. So, the audio from, I think, Tuesday's podcast onwards will sound a bit different, simply because I have a new mic, so it should be even better audio. Sorry, I think someone's sending me a message. Okay, no. So audio from Tuesday should be even better. Have a brand new shiny mic. It's way better than the one I've got right now. I have a camera. In fact, I've had a camera literally about 4 feet away from me in a box, because I'm trying to get a set made. It's taken a while. So on-camera content is coming. I want to start doing news on camera alongside the edited videos I do now. Also live streaming. I want to do these more. Also, you know, with a camera on, and after things like, you know, developer directs, summer showcases, stuff like that. I might even cover some, like, you know, PlayStation live streams, because hey, we get multi-platform stuff there as well. It'd be interesting to cover. And also let's plays. I do want to have some let's plays on the channel, because I talk about Mass Effect all the time, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have an entire playthrough of the entire Mass Effect trilogy on the channel? So at some point this year, I'll be live streaming the entire trilogy, which should be fun, because I have weirdly optimized routes for Mass Effect, especially 3. But yeah, all that stuff. And you know, bear in mind, I always get told that the audio right now, like with this mic, is good, but it can always be better. So fancy new mic, loads of cool stuff coming. Again, this was like an impromptu stream. I may delist this in a few hours, because, you know, why not? I don't know. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, just share all that stuff. Everyone in chat has been awesome. Pretty much would have had more people listening if I actually didn't give people like less than 5 minutes notice. But anyway, new episode of All Things Xbox podcast is on Tuesday, as per usual. I may have a new video. Let me check the date. I may have a new video going live between now and Tuesday. It's a video I've been working on for a while, and if you do like Xbox stuff, you may want to pay attention to it. Anyway, I'm heading off now. I hope everyone has a great day. Again, people, no reason to lose your minds. It's all good. And the people that have lost their marbles on Twitter, maybe they're in an insane asylum by now. Hopefully they get help. But on a serious note, the people that have taken it to heart the past 2 weeks should just take a step back, calm down. You know, it's just video games at the end of the day. Anyway, and plus, everyone in chat right now, I'm going to talk to you on Twitter in a bit anyway, more than likely, or tomorrow, or whatever. Anyway, I'm off now. I hope everyone has a good day. I'm out. Peace.